Myoho Renge Kyo, Myoho Renge Kyo, Myoho Renge Kyo.
Have you guys been watching the news lately? A little bit. Why? Do you know that there are people in our country that are actually suggesting that we should have a civil war? Yeah, I know. It absolutely blows my mind. Hey, Sean, you were in Ireland during your Civil War. What was that like? Oh, Jimmy, you and Jack, you can't imagine? Hope you never have to. I've read a little bit about it and I've seen the pictures. It looked really bad. Well, just imagine driving around your city and all the businesses are boarded up or burned out cars everywhere. And the police, they couldn't control everything, so the paramilitary groups, they moved in. They're basically just street gangs. They set up their protection rackets, sell drugs, all the usual stuff. Oh man. They really had us on lockdown too. Curfews, travel restrictions. Didn't matter that much though, because all the restaurants, clubs, theaters, they were all closed anyway. Wow. Right now, your unemployment's around 4%. Pretty good. Back in Northern Ireland, back in the 80s, it's got all the way up to around 20%. So you can imagine what that did to the crime rate and homelessness. Forget it. Jeez, I bet that would collapse our whole economy. There is no way that we could afford to have 20% of the population on unemployment. Jeez, we're already $32 trillion in debt. Okay, well, let's summarize. So we've got curfews, travel restrictions, sky-high unemployment, crime is through the roof, homelessness is rampant, and then, of course, we've got the constant threat of being shot or blown up. Yeah. Wow, that sounds like a great idea. Civil War, what a great idea, huh, Jimmy? Yeah, it seems like our whole country has fallen into some weird mob mentality. I think a lot of the blame has to fall right on the media. Yeah, I was watching this comedy show the other day, and they had a compilation of all these news shows starting off their show with phrases like, boy, this is really gonna make you mad, and this is really gonna infuriate you, like over and over. So it made it like so obvious that they're just trying to get people riled up. They're doing it for higher ratings, and no mistake. I was reading that a lot of these top news anchors, or whatever they're called these days, they make like $40-50 million a year, some even more. $50 million a year. Yeah, I guess once they get people riled up enough to get the shooting started, they can go to the Cayman Islands and live on their big yachts or something, huh? Hey, Jack, what's a Buddhist take on all this? Well, in Buddhism, they say that all the problems of the world stem from the three poisons of greed, anger, and foolishness. So would you say that then the poison of anger would be the cause of all these wars we keep having? Oh yeah, for sure. And greed too. I mean, there's a small group of people that make billions and billions of dollars off these wars. And they use our own anger and greed to manipulate us into going along with it, and we're foolish enough to fall for it. What do you mean, Jack? Yeah, so in Buddhism, the world of anger, it kind of correlates with arrogance, or the desire to dominate. So an unethical leader will convince the population that they're superior because their skin is a certain color, or they practice a certain religion, or they have a certain ideology that's way up here, and then this other group of people that they want to start the war with, they're way down there, they're nothing. It's okay to kill them. They're just vermin, So And again, we're foolish enough to fall for it. Like they prey on people's vanity. Yeah, and the vast majority of the population gets totally screwed. I mean, think about it. We're losing our precious children, our sons and our daughters. And the ones that do come back, a lot of them have really serious psychological disorders, PTSD and things. It's horrible. And not to discount the horrible suffering, but wars are really, really expensive. Yeah. You know, that makes me think of something. Sean, you won't believe this, but when Jimmy and I were growing up, you would hear people, like when the economy would drop down, you would hear people say things like, you know, what this country needs is a good war. That'll get things going. Am I right, Jimmy? Oh yeah, I've heard that many times over the years. But what they realize is that only a very tiny group of people actually profit from the war. The rest of us just end up paying higher taxes to pay for it. So Jack, how can Buddhism help with all these woes of mankind? Well, I'm glad you asked me, Sean, my lad. Jack, tell him about Bodhisattva never disparaging. Ah, great idea, Jimmy, me boy. And stop with the Irish accent, it's terrible. Don't let him discourage you, Jack. I thought it sounded pretty good. Now, who is this Bodhisattva never disparaging character? Well, he is none other than the superstar of the Lotus Sutra. And what does he do then? Well, so what he does is he goes around and he bows respectfully to everybody, and he says this. He says, I would never dare treat you with disparagement or arrogance. Why? Because you will all practice the Bodhisattva way and will then attain Buddhahood. How would you put that in plain English, Jack? Well, my interpretation is that he's bowing to the Buddha nature that we all have. Some people might call it God or Great Spirit or, you know, a lot of other names too. But it's the biggest part of ourselves, and it's pure love, and it's eternal. So it's the part of ourselves that never dies. And yeah, and it's the thing that connects us all equally. Oh, that sounds pretty good. So it does. So if our true selves are eternal beings of pure love, maybe our time here on earth is just like a school to maybe improve our souls or raise our consciousness, as some people say, or get in touch with God, or as Bodhisattva Never Disparaging says, you know, practice the Bodhisattva way in order to attain Buddhahood. So in Buddhism, we're all equal then? Yeah, we're all equal, and we all deserve respect. And once we, as a population, as the population of this planet, once we all realize that on a deep enough level, nobody is going to be able to manipulate us into killing one another. Oh, that makes sense, so it does. Well, here's to Bodhisattva Never Disparaging. Long live Bodhisattva Never Disparaging. I'll drink to that.
Namyo Renge Kyo, Namyo Renge Kyo, Namyo Renge Kyo.